Loshki? I said, as the sky grew dark. What's that in the far-off distance?
Stars. Masterly still.
So that's what stars are. I could tell he found me amusing.
Get used to them,
He said.
and me too while you're at it. I serve the whole of Lady Miune's house, which you're now a part of.
Is that so? That's very, very interesting. It seemed like there was something he wanted to say when I cranked up my energy, but chose not to, for whatever reason. There must have been loads of things that were off limits for him to say. A little silence passed, which I was quick to break up. What do you do for Miyu?
I'm just the captain of her guard. Nothing more than the muscle of the operation, you could say.
The muscle of the operation? Now, if only I knew what the operation was. But he kept choosing vague words, so I couldn't get anything insightful. He walked me back to the palace, and I realized how great its fortifications were. Miune's home, her incredible palace, had an enormous wall all around it. There were also armed men on top of the wall. They looked down at us, and then opened up the gate at seeing Loshki.
Captain.
A guard greeted Loshki when we walked in.
Captain and young Lady Listel.
Loshki corrected him.
Do well to remember her.
Loshki led me through the glistening courtyard and back into the palace.
Any more use of me now, Lady Listel?
I looked up at his towering frame. I'm good now, I said. Thank you, Loshki.
Well, then,
He said, cross-armed.
I guess I'll be off to accompany Lady Miune.
All right, that sounds good.
Speaking of company, you'll be without hers or my own for the next few hours. Let an attendant know if you need anything. They serve you now.
I had to suppress my excitement. Several hours alone was a lot of time to work with. Okie doke, that's fine. He faded away. My thoughts went to the room an attendant had been sitting in front of the night before. If it really was Miyu's room, then there shouldn't have been anyone in front of it anymore, since she was gone. Right? I scurried through the palace and made my way back to the room. Turns out, my hunch was right. Now, there was nobody at the door. I crept along and nudged the door open. There wasn't a soul to be seen, so I entered. That was when the eyes took faint shape. Ever did they stay in the corner of my vision? Words licked their way into my ear.
You are so quick to doubt.
I wish I could have denied the voice, but I couldn't, because it was right. Consequently, it was hard for me to focus on the moment at hand. As the eyes burned behind me, I did my best to survey Miune's room, which was like heaven incarnate. My reflection glowed on the marble floor underneath me. There was also a crystal chandelier, a well-draped bed, shimmering curtains, soft furniture, and most incredible of all, a dizzying array of lights. Colors danced all over due to the shine of the night sun, which was dripping in from a colored overhead window. I bore down, snapped out of awe, and started making rounds through the room. There was nothing of importance lying in the open, so I went to the drawers. I was on the verge of giving up and shipping out when I saw a little something glistening in the depths of one of them. I grabbed for the object, which turned out to be a key. Laughs trickled from under my breath. I flew out to the locked door from the night before, where I'd heard faint sounds. I put the key in and twisted, to no avail. My feet took me upstairs to the second locked room. Again, I tried the key, but this time, it worked. With an ominous creak, the door inched open. My heart raced at the prospect of what might lie inside. I always expected something sinister when I opened a locked door, and yet this room was anything but so. There was nothing more than a desk and a large cabinet. I scratched my head and walked to the cabinet. My little fingers opened it up to reveal an endless stream of papers. I picked one off the top. What could be on the papers? What could be so important? Hence, after years, Lord Sedleana, so it read, truth has come into your possession. We have disposed of the last man in your path, according to your wishes. Please now, look well upon your faithful servant. What I would learn is that Sedleana was nothing more than an alias. Miune was loaded with aliases. There was also someone called the Unsaid One. I found that person in specific interesting. It seemed that Miune answered to whoever the mythical Unsaid One was. Miune had a palace worth a queen, a guard worth a queen, and servants worth a queen. Now it made sense how all that had come to be. She had made her fortune off schemes and corruption. I would wager she was one of the most prominent people in Sohal by now, if not Lethine as a whole. I made sure to put everything back the way I'd found it and lock up before returning to Miune's room. I put the key back where it belonged, then got out of the area. That might have sounded like all I did or even could do, but that wasn't quite the case. I stopped by Miune's library and began to scour for maps. It didn't take too long before I found what I was after. I stuffed a map of town into my pocket and determined myself to learning it thoroughly. How did I know the name of Miyu's town in the first place, you might ask? Well, in the locked room, I'd made sure to memorize the address that all the letters for Miune had been sent to. We were in a city called Siruthon. I also got a good map of nearby areas, which I stuffed into my pocket too. Learning both maps could mean the difference between life and death if I ever fled, so I had every intention to get the both of them under memory. I thought that was good for a night's work. Miyu seemed to be the patient sort anyways, which meant I shouldn't rush too much. I went to the dining hall, got with one of the maids, and had them start rolling out sweets. If this was the one chance I'd ever get to be a glutton, then you can sure bet I was taking it. I was thin as a straw. A little fat would have gone a long way to helping me out, so I saw this all as a win-win. Near the end of my conquest at the table, a door opened. I looked back and saw Miune. "You think like me," she said. I gave a little laugh. At this point in time, I thought I was an impressive little devil. Still, I was sure to sell off my laugh as an agreeing one. I guess we do. She walked along to the table and motioned to an attendant. Please pour me something, she said. Anything. Miyu took a seat opposite of me at the table as the attendant hurried off. She didn't pay me much mind, which made me uncomfortable. Now, don't think I was an egotistical maniac craving attention or anything. It's just that she seemed too patient with this game of ours. What was she hoping to get out of me? Why couldn't she just beat the answers she sought out of me? Or was she holding me for ransom? Again, I'd rather die than get sold back to my people. I was keeping my nails long, just in case. Are you all right, Auntie Miyu? The attendant came back and set down a glass of luscious red. Miyu started to fiddle it around with an outstretched finger. Of course, my dear. I had nothing more than a little maternelle, is all. Oh, I'm sorry, Auntie Miyu. What matter was it? I hope it wasn't too important. Not at all, my dear, she said, taking a drink of wine. I have an important dinner tomorrow with colleagues. I had wished to enlist the talents of a certain sweet-toned songstress to keep us entertained, is all. However, there is no basis for I to say that she will, in fact, participate. That's unfortunate. I drifted off for a second and thought about my own talent for song. Either she picked up on what was going on in my head, or she already knew. I do not wager you have a talent for song, my dear. Or yet might you? Lying was something I wanted to flee from, and if she already knew the answer, well, then sneaking around the question wouldn't do me any good either. I do, as a matter of fact, but I might not be good enough for an event. Even if you aren't, all that matters is that you enjoy the art. Tell me, Kea, do you like to sing? I do. Then you must let no soul take that from you. Come, let us hear you. What she'd just said is how I'd always felt about singing. Still, it felt good to hear someone agree with my sentiment. My songs had always been used for rituals, dark prayers, all sorts of torture sessions. Honestly, I struggled with keeping my love of song from getting spoiled because of times like those. Ach neheo ne kasas neo mishala, achruila saga me sufa kalirin, achuyu aminya yeon savichnaye. Claps blazed from the attendants at standby. Applause leaked all the way from the kitchen. A bewildered spark lit every pair of eyes I saw. That was all no surprise. What surprised me was Miyu's lack of awe. She was too comfortable, too relaxed. That was truly incredible, Kea, she said. It dawned on me how her emotions never changed. She always had the same sense of calm to her, save for the one time she went off on Loshki, which I bet had just been an act. Thank you, Auntie Miyu. Of course, Kea. That was simply remarkable. Now then, I do not suppose I could interest you in joining our little banquet tomorrow, could I? I nodded. I'd like to join you. You are absolutely sure? You might find it boring. Yes. I really want to. All right, then. So you wish it, so it shall be. Quote-unquote banquets with colleagues was probably the place where she got most of her dirty work done. There was no way I could pass up the opportunity